few weeks ago, I think a little over 3 weeks ago, I got baptized, and I made my public proclamation to the public that I would follow God for the rest of my life. But it really didn't seem too long ago when I said to myself, okay, being Christian is impossible for me. I can never come to agree with any sort of religion whatsoever. And I thought this for a couple of reasons. The first one being, Christianity and just religion in general, intellectually just didn't make any sense to me. And here's what I mean by that. If you were to step into this church, right, they will tell you that the way that you get into a heaven is by believing that Jesus is God, that he died on the cross and rose from the dead 3 days later, right? If you go to an Islamic mosque, they will tell you the way that you get into heaven is through believing Allah is the one true God. It is through praying 5 times a day, through going to the mosque, through fasting during Ramadan, right? If you go to a Hindu temple, they'll tell you to get into heaven, you want to make sure you do as many good things as you can to accumulate, these like good karma points so that you can escape the reincarnation cycle so that you can finally get into heaven. And I thought to myself, if every single religion is going to make a different claim, a different assertion as to how to get only into one possible heaven, then I don't have any incentive to believe any of you, right? What reason do I have to pick one over the other? So it just didn't make any sense to me. And the second point, which kind of ties into my first point, was being Christian felt impossible because I didn't want to blindly follow a set of rules to some deity that I didn't even know existed, right? I wanted to be like the rest of the kids, have fun, explore my identity, really, get to really soak in the experience of being independent, right? And if I had to adhere to a bunch of rules in life, right, that's unfair to me, right? Because why do I have to follow a series of commandments when everybody else gets to do whatever they want? So that was my second reason. Despite this, though, my parents still tried to make me come to church, despite my vehement disbelief in any sort of religion whatsoever. And the reason they wanted me to come here was because they realized that my sociability wasn't the greatest. I spent a lot of time kind of tuning out my surroundings. I spent a lot of time just relaxing at home, and I wasn't really hanging out with friends as much as the other kids were. So out of concern, they sent me here in hopes of making some good friends and improving my sociability. When this was pointed out to me that I basically had really, really, really few friends, finding friendship, right? Finding my circle of friends became a massive insecurity. It became a huge part of my identity, right? And when I came to the church, I realized, yeah, the church people are very nice. They're super warm, they're very trustworthy, but their kindness sort of felt fake. It felt disingenuous because I thought to myself, I'm like, what good is your kindness to me if you're gonna treat everybody else the same way? So it was because of this reason that I overlooked the church and steered toward other aspects of my life to find my group of friends, my circle of friends whose loyalties only lied within each other. But in grade 11, I feel like I was really shown the true nature of the world. If you guys didn't know, back in 2018, I had a skiing accident. I broke my legs and I had to get around 3.5 months of rehab. It was physically the most weak and most vulnerable state that I had ever been in. And during that time, I realized not a single one of the people that I considered to be friends really showed up for me, and that I was just fooling myself. I was telling myself, oh, these are my friends, right? So that was a devastating experience, but the good part is that the people who did show up were the people of the church. The one area of my life that I struggled to believe in. And it was a really nice experience. Pastor Andrew, who was the previous pastor of this church, he came with a bunch of the high school youth to come visit me. We had a bunch of the high school counselors come as well, and it was very sweet. But ultimately, I still couldn't really believe in Christianity. I couldn't believe in God simply because I still didn't have the answers to my questions. So university came around, and this was like finally my chance to be normal, right? To finally live, the stereotypical university student life, right? Like what is the party life all about? What is like the nightclub life all about, right? I really wanted to see for myself what this was, right? Because people in high school were going to these nightclubs downtown, and it was really kind of sparked my curiosity, So one night I finally got the chance. One of my roommates took me out to a local pub, and I realized that the minute I stepped inside, it just felt super empty. All the little things that I didn't like all accumulated together and was just all in one place. I didn't like the loud music. I didn't like the sticky floors. I didn't like the disco ball. I didn't like the fact that you had to pay for coat check. Just none of it really, none of it was enjoyable for me. So, yeah, it was pretty overhyped. And that night I went home thinking, well, I guess I kind of know why I don't get along with some of these people. I'm like, do I really like going to a party? Well, based off that experience, no. Do I want to excessively drink? No. Do I want to smoke weed and do drugs? No. Well, I guess I have my answer. I didn't have similar beliefs, interests, and values as the other people did. So it's no wonder I couldn't really bond with anybody genuinely. So after that, I'm like, okay, you know what? Clearly me pursuing what I want doesn't work. So this is when I genuinely actually tried reading the Bible a chance and actually taking this seriously. And as 1 month turned into 3 months, turned into 8 months, I gradually developed into a good habit, and I became more and more intrigued and decided to come back home more often. I had many discussions with Ronnie here, who's the current pastor here. And slowly but surely, the intellectual questions that I had began to unveil. We went over a lot of things, but I feel like the part that stood out to me the most was this. Everyone always likes to make a claim about God, but it always seems to be based off of the environment that you're raised in, or it seems to be off of personal preference, right? If you don't want God to exist, you probably won't believe that God exists. If you were raised in a Jewish or an Islamic household, you'd probably be Jewish or Muslim. But what I thought was genuinely intriguing to me was that Christianity, the Christian faith, is based off of a historic event that was testable. The Christian faith is testable. And the way that we establish this is, A, prove that Jesus never existed, and if he did exist, prove he never died on the cross, and if he didn't die on the cross, prove the supernatural claim that he never rose from the dead. And if one of these claims are debunked, then Christianity itself is destroyed, because the foundation of Christianity is believing that this event happened. So that was the part that stood out to me the most. And if any of what I said resonates with your experiences, I encourage you to pursue these curiosities, whether it be, coming back here, pursuing a church of your own, or, doing your own research. And if you are atheist, right, or if you're of a different faith, right, to be completely and objectively fair, I can't prove you wrong. There's no method for me to use to prove that you're incorrect. I can only tell you why I might be right, right? So I guess if I were to summarize what initially sparked my curiosity and my interests with an analogy, it'd probably be this. Let's forget all this, the Christian talk and religious talk. If I could summarize what interests me, would be through this analogy. I thought to myself, if you were a cop, if you were a police officer, and you were trying to convict a culprit of a crime, right, and you couldn't produce enough physical evidence, does this mean that the culprit did not commit it? It's just something that I thought about. So that's it for me. Thank you.